Greetings, everybody! Welcome once more to the Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive once more into the world of darkness? It is I, of course, Tantus Dracovin, your guide, your mentor, your emperor, here to teach you everything you need to know about the world of darkness and tabletop beyond. And today we're going to be diving once more into Changeling. We're moving from Europe and spreading to the world. Before we go on our journey, though, before we head to Africa today to learn about a Kith from there, I will need a little bit of help from you. Please make sure, if you don't already support this channel and aren't subscribed, do so. It helps out. Give some support. Gives you information, like ringing the bell and all that kind of stuff. Liking, engagement helps. And let me know, what do you think of our topic today? What do you think of the expanded worldly Kith that we're going to be starting to talk about? This is our first in, I guess, a long series of going around the world talking about Kith. And let me know about this individual, the Biloko or Elokko, depending on if you're going multiple or singular. Anyway, I'm opening up a portal, a gateway. Just need to grab my hand, and let's go. The World of Darkness awaits. We've once more arrived. We've once more stepped foot in Africa. Now today, as I have stated, we are going to be learning about the Biloko, or if singular, Elokko. I'm probably going to go for their multiple group term, the Biloko, and I might be not pronouncing it correctly. If I am making a mistake in that, apology. I'm bad with pronouncing English, let alone any other language. So, but these are an African Kith, and there is one main source in C20 which talks about them. It's where we expand beyond the European influence, which I thought was a very good thing to do. Not that we didn't have a lot of global influence for certain groups of Kith, but there were definitely more singular, this is a more regional Kiths that we saw in Changeling that we didn't see in other parts of the world. But the player's guide does a pretty good job of providing this from C20, as I said. And so we have this tour, and yes, it's not as deep dive as others, but enough to get us an idea of what we're talking about. Now, there's really only one image, so I'm going to start with this image here. This is an image which depicts all the African Kith, all the ones that are defined in the C20 book, in the player's guide. The Elokko slash Biloko is on our far side here, all the way to the left side there. So that's kind of going in order. We'll talk about the order of the future, but yes. So where do we start with speaking about these Kith? Well, I'm going to start with a little bit of a basics that I'm not going to go into depths about the African version of Changeling, the Land of Ancient Dreams. There are more cultures in the Land of Ancient Dreams, which is the basically broader term for, or the Land of Ancient Tales. This is the Kithane term for Africa. And there are different regions, different Kith, different groups, different kingdoms that exist within that. And I might do a video on that in the future. Maybe when I'm done all the African Kiths, I'll kind of take a step back, step away, and do a video particularly on their region. But I'm going to focus on just Biloko today. So traditional people. They tend to be born in tight-knit communities, socially, physically isolated from other cultures. They're relatively young by measures of a lot of other faiths, which is very interesting too. There are those that argue that they were created in response to mortal fears that saw their communities devastated by war or disasters, that their ways would be lost to history. Others claim that they track the origins of assimilations and loss of cultural identity by colonization across the continent. Regardless of the origin, these Kiths are keeping the ways of people alive, living embodiments of the beliefs of a community. So that's what they are. They are the beliefs, the culture, the existence of a community, the essence of it in Kith form. They keep old legends, traditions alive, basically with the challenges of the modern age, the threats of the future, the threats of various things that influence and try to destroy the various cultures. And so one of the important things about the Biloko is, as a group, they represent a lot of different cultures across Africa, the Land of Ancient Dreams. So they're very diverse too, and they are one of the very few Changeling that have, and more than a few other Changelings that have not just foreign visitors, have seen Biloko and thought with all their different heritages and different styles and all these different things that they're members of different Kith. But they aren't, because they represent something that can happen across the continent with all kinds of different people. And the Biloko view this diversity as their strength, because it's they're working better to preserve the cultures they are born to embody. And if my culture, I'm representing it, and your culture, you're representing it, we're working together to preserve both those cultures. But we all understand the differences and the kind of nuances between these cultures and where to understand them. It's taking from all the culture. They're in tune with natures, the communities that dream them into existence. They have the traditional bonds between the communities and worlds around them, honor ancient hunting rights, ensure sacred lakes are not drained for a new highway. They are, though, young in many ways, and more the other traditional Kith from the region, from Africa, they oftentimes will butt head with them because of the differences and odd ends, because they are so young, because this concept of culture completely disappear is relatively new in this region in a lot of ways, or new to the worries and dreams of the future, the minds of people in many ways. Most belong to close-knit and isolated populations. They follow tradition more than most communities. They tend to be traditional and conservative, preferring ancestral ways, learning local histories and fairy tales. But it is important also to note that when it comes to modern conveniences, especially things like the digital age, where their tribes and their people have spread to different corners of the world, a scythe phone could be a lifeline. The fact is that, yes, they are trying to preserve these cultures, but when these cultures can be spread out, when there are people of that culture that could be in new countries, new places, far off, the digital age can help connect them together, and that can help strengthen that bond. So it's not that they're not going to use the age we're in now, they just, use it as they feel necessary rather than diving how in. Because everything being equal, the time-tested, time-honored practices and traditions are what's most important to them. They don't hate the present, they don't fear the future, they just don't want to lose their past in the process. So that's the entire thing. It's not that the future, technology, the digital age is a threat to them. They want to be able to have that too, and see that future while still keeping their past, their identity, what makes their culture strong. It's evolving, but still keeping identity in many ways. They want to keep that cultural identity. I zoomed in on the picture of the Biloko, or I'm sorry, Elokko, because singular. So, lifestyles vary for them. Physical labor is something that's definitely in with them. They're in much more traditional mindset. They tend to be shorter in slim height, slim muscular, wear a lot of functional clothing, adorn themselves with whatever symbols of their beliefs. So depending on the culture, masks, bead necklaces, wooden amulets, feathery headpieces, totems, instruments, depending on which African culture they are the embodiment of, will depend on the kind of things they have. So some origins might use face paints, scarification, body modification. Basically, they tend to aim towards a much more traditional look in many ways that connects up with whatever culture they represent. So seeing one without any kind of more traditional accessories, more, you could say like tribal fashion accessories, is incredibly rare. Basically, finding one that doesn't have at least something that represents the culture they're from, it's like them being naked in a lot of ways. They gain glamour from things that remind them of cultural homes. This can be very wide variety in their practices and their origins, but it does link to the culture of the people. It's very easy for them to gain glamour then in their own communities, and difficult when they are not within those communities. And when they unleash their powers, you can maybe sometimes hear ceremonial drums, stomping feet, songs sung in ancient tongues, things that, the subtle smell of dust and frequent ceremonial oils. Basically, it's an exaltation of the culture in a lot of ways and the rituals that might be there. So they have 2 birthrights and 2 frailties. that I want to talk about before we finish up today talking about the Biloko. The first one is ancestral virtues. Since they are embodiment of the people of the land they are from, basically, it means that different things across the land of ancient dreams, across Africa, they all have a certain quality about them, and basically they excel at the qualities of their community. Yes, this is an interesting way of saying, hey, we're from across Africa, we're from different communities, we're from different cultures. So unlike a lot of other Kith which gain this bonus to a particular stat, Biloko basically choose an attribute that is valued by their culture, and they can get an extra dot in it. And even if they're 5 dots, they can go to 6 dots. We've seen this appear in other Kith and Kithane that are related, that they'll have something. This one is, they select it based upon their community and their culture. They can't botch it, and the living legend merit costs reduced by 2 for them. And when they choose that ability, it's stuck in with them. It's ingrained. So yeah, I choose an ability. I can have an extra dot. It can take me above 5 to 6. Can't botch it. Get some extra living legend. That's ancestral virtues. A very interesting one. And it does, again, you have to kind of reflect whatever culture they're supposed to be coming from. So this is one of those kinds, if you're going to play one, you actually have to kind of have an idea of how their culture works that they're representative of, and know what kind of things are important to that culture. So you know, like, oh, is dexterity going to be important? Is, charisma going to be important? Is, perception going to be important? What's going to be important to this culture? Natural instinct is the other side of their birthrights. After living so long off the land, they have quick reflexes. They roll twice for initiative and keep the best results. They always go first on ties. Can't botch survival rolls. Yeah. Honestly speaking, Africa is a challenging place to live off the land, so I respect it and understand it. Now, their frailties, and these define them in many ways. The first off is familiar ground, which is a very interesting frailty to have. Basically, when a Biloko is in a place that's a strange place, they're kind of not able to get good rest. Effectively, each night they have to make a willpower roll, difficulty 6, to recover willpower points when resting in this unfamiliar place. Effectively, they might not recover willpower when they are in a difficult place to rest. They have to spend at least 3 lunar cycles in that place to become familiar with it. And the difficulty of that becoming familiar can actually increase or decrease depending on situations. If a place is hostile or strange, even more so than normal, it might be even more difficult for them to become familiar. Or maybe some of your culture, the community that lives in this place is connected with your people, whether they are descendants that have a connection to your culture, or perhaps language speakers that already exist in this area. They can make it easier too. If people speak your language, people have a shared culture, maybe a small group of your people live in this place, it helps. The other frailty they have is guarded. They don't make very good first impressions. And they're very direct, making them have some social problems, basically. First social interaction rolls has increased difficulty, and failed etiquette rolls counts as botches unless they spend a willpower. Hard there. But that's what we really know about the Biloko / Elokko, depending on, again, group or singular. We don't know a lot about them because, again, they were introduced in C20, and since the 5e versions of things have come out, I don't know if we're going to visit Changeling and what of the great work that Onyx Press did is going to be kept. I'm going to say that there. So it's kind of like one of those things that I don't know if we'll revisit them. I would love to revisit these continents and dive deeper into them, because again, we have this really good idea about the European descended Kith and that region of the world, and we don't have as much view on this outside world. We have these small pockets like these African Kiths I'm going to be talking about for the next kind of couple of episodes. And that's great. Biloko are a fascinating group that makes a lot of sense and has interesting abilities and is interesting reflection of a much more modern culture, especially in Africa, where the threat of colonization and modernization do threaten a lot of these very deep cultures that have been in this area. This fact that, war and strife and all these kind of things have happened because of a lot of effects of the world outside have basically thrown things in a loop for them, and so it's like it's not any of their choice in many ways, and it kind of drives this entire home. And this is like a thought that you can kind of have about, like, yeah, these people's culture is threatened, and it's a fascinating and interesting version of that story told in changeling form, and the plight that people are facing. The plight that many people face is loss of culture, identity, and yeah, this seems a very strong place for it, a strong enough place, perhaps a dream to manifest. That's why the Biloko are so interesting. Anyway, we shall leave things there for today. I hope you enjoyed. Please check out the rest of my stuff on Twitch, on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, you can see live things. I do a recording of these live. I do other tabletop stuff. I do gaming. On YouTube, anything tabletop related gets uploaded. That's this. Live plays like Fall of Avanswell is my current one, Wednesdays at 8 on Twitch. But you can catch any of my older ones, discussing tabletop, Saturdays at 6 on Twitch. That's my talk show, discussion, podcasty thing. And of course, go check out my social medias link below. These are all the great ways to support. Do remember again, that liking, commenting, all that stuff I said at the beginning. Until next time, we once again dive in the world of darkness, or somewhere else. I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.